It's going to be a really fast-paced game.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the Fever get the ball up the floor in like 2 seconds.
How about Alyssa Thomas, the former Baylor Bear? Three-pointer made. Every field goal made, it's been three, and Clark gets her first field goal of the afternoon.
For Coach Sides and this team.
Clark comes back and answers.
I saw the adjustment just now.
Hold up, did you see what just happened? Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell just dropped 64 points combined against the Dallas Wings. That's more than half their team's total points. These two aren't just playing basketball, they're rewriting the whole WNBA playbook. But you know what's even crazier? This might just be the beginning. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. You know what's wild about revolutions? They often start in the most unexpected places, like Indiana, where the Fever were once the WNBA's bottom feeders. But here's the kicker. Their journey from league laughing stock to legitimate threat is even crazier than you might imagine. Let's rewind the clock a bit. At the start of this season, the Indiana Fever were the team everyone wanted to face, not because they were exciting to watch, but because they were practically handing out wins. They were stuck in a rebuilding phase, and most people expected them to be fighting just to avoid being the worst team in the league. When Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell joined forces, there were plenty of doubters. Sure, they had talent, but could two players really turn around a team that had been struggling for seasons? It seemed like a tall order, even for players of their caliber. But here's where things get interesting. The Fever didn't just improve, they completely flipped the script. We're talking back-to-back road wins against tough teams.
It just feels like our chemistry's better. It just feels like everything flows a little bit better. It just like feels better. I think as a basketball player, like it's something you can feel when you're out there.
For me, I'm always on the next shot, whatever that is. Next play mentality, and I think my number was called in that transition play.
You know, it's cool. Obviously, there's been a lot of really good players that put on this jersey, and, you know, to be up there with some of them, it's special.
They took down the Chicago Sky and then followed it up by beating the Dallas Wings. That's not just good. That's the kind of performance that makes other teams sit up and take notice. And notice they did. Suddenly, the Fever weren't the easy win everyone was counting on. They were a team to be reckoned with, a threat that could no longer be ignored. Their record, 17-16. That might not sound earth-shattering, but when you consider where they started, it's nothing short of a basketball miracle. But the numbers only tell part of the story. What's really impressive is the confidence this team is playing with now. They're heading into the playoffs with a swagger that says, we've got nothing to lose. And let me tell you, that's a dangerous mindset for their opponents. So what changed? How did the Fever go from being the WNBA's punching bag to a team that's striking fear into opponents? Well, a big part of it is down to Coach Kelsey Sides. She's been working behind the scenes, fine-tuning the team's chemistry and tactics. The result? A team that's greater than the sum of its parts.
Clark from way downtown parries it.
Well, the last time she was here, she had 19 assists, which broke a WNBA record. Now, this is a lefty using that left hand, and yeah, that's going to be a highlight reel. Which right now the Wings are dominating in free throws.
Clark knocks down her second three of the ball game.
If you have shooters on the weak side.
Oh, great play, and it ends up in Caitlin Clark getting her 19th point.
But let's be real, a coach can only do so much. The real magic happens on the court, and that's where Clark and Mitchell come in. These two aren't just good players, they're game changers. They've brought a level of skill and excitement to the Fever that's transforming the entire team. This reinvention, though, it's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a hidden ingredient in the Clark Mitchell recipe that's cooking up nightmares for opposing coaches. And it's not what you'd expect. You've seen the stats, you've watched the highlights, but there's something else going on with Clark and Mitchell that's making them absolutely unstoppable. It's like they've unlocked some secret basketball level that no one else can access. Let's break it down, starting with Clark. This rookie isn't just good, she's redefining what it means to be a floor general. Her court vision. It's like she's got eyes in the back of her head. She's threading passes through gaps that shouldn't even exist. And don't get me started on her three-point shooting. It's not just accurate, it's downright disrespectful to defenders. She's pulling up from logo distance like it's a layup. But here's the thing about Clark, she's not just about personal glory, she's got this crazy ability to make everyone around her better. It's like she's got a sixth sense for where her teammates are going to be before they even know it themselves. She's creating opportunities out of thin air, and her teammates are feasting. Now, let's talk about Mitchell. This woman is a scoring machine with ice in her veins. She's got that killer instinct that you can't teach. When the game's on the line, Mitchell doesn't just want the ball, she demands it. And more often than not, she delivers. Her aggressive style of play keeps defenses on their toes. They can't relax for a second or she'll make them pay. But here's where it gets really interesting. Clark and Mitchell aren't just two great players who happen to be on the same team. They've got this chemistry, this synergy that's taking their game to a whole new level. It's like they've got some kind of telepathic connection on the court. Think about it. Clark's long-range shooting stretches the defense, creating gaps that Mitchell can exploit with her aggressive drives. And when defenses collapse on Mitchell, she's got Clark waiting on the perimeter, ready to rain down threes. It's a pick-your-poison situation for opponents, and there's no good answer. You want to know what's really wild? These two aren't just playing great basketball, they're having fun doing it. There's this joy, this energy that radiates from them when they're on the court together. And let me tell you, basketball played with joy is basketball played at another level. Remember that game against the Dallas Wings? That wasn't just a good performance, it was a statement. Clark and Mitchell combined for 64 points. That's not just beating a team, that's demoralizing them. It's the kind of performance that makes other teams go back to the drawing board and wonder, how the heck are we supposed to stop these two? You think the Fever's transformation is impressive? Wait till you see what it's doing to the rest of the WNBA. Clark and Mitchell aren't just changing their team, they're rewiring the entire league, and it's got everyone from coaches to players scratching their heads, wondering, how do we stop this new look Fever? It's like the entire WNBA just got a wake-up call and Indiana's the one ringing the bell. Remember when the Fever were the team everyone wanted to play? Those days are long gone. Now, they're the team keeping other coaches up at night. Think about it. The Fever went from being an afterthought to a playoff contender. That's not just a comeback story. That's a complete reinvention of what's possible in the WNBA. And it's all thanks to the dynamic duo of Clark and Mitchell, with a big assist from Coach Christy Sides. Let's talk about Coach Sides for a second. She's been working behind the scenes, quietly transforming the Fever from a bunch of individuals into a real team. She's got these players understanding each other's moves before they even make them. It's like she's turned the Fever into a basketball hive mind. And the confidence, oh man, it's through the roof. These players are walking onto the court like they own it. They're not hoping to win anymore. They're expecting to. That's the kind of attitude that can take a team from good to great. But here's where it gets really interesting. The Fever's style of play is throwing other teams for a loop. They're not just winning. They're winning in a way that's hard to defend against. We're talking long-range shooting that stretches defenses to their breaking point, and creative passing that leaves opponents dizzy. Imagine being a coach trying to prep your team to face the Fever. Where do you even start? Double team Clark, and Mitchell will torch you. Focus on Mitchell, and Clark will pick you apart with her passing. It's like trying to plug holes in a sinking ship. As soon as you think you've got one problem solved, another one pops up. And get this, the Fever are heading into the playoffs with nothing to lose. They've already exceeded everyone's expectations. Now they're playing with house money, and that makes them dangerous. You know what's scarier than a team that's supposed to win? A team that's not afraid to lose. Other teams are starting to look at the Fever differently. They're not just another opponent anymore. They're a legitimate threat. In a best-of-3 playoff series, the Fever could upset some higher-seeded teams. That's not just speculation. That's a real possibility that's got other teams sweating. But here's the kicker. Clark and Mitchell are still improving. They're not even close to their ceiling yet. As the playoffs approach, they're only getting better, more in sync, more dangerous. And that's gotta be terrifying for the rest of the league. So what does all this mean for the future of the Fever and the WNBA? Well, that's the million-dollar question. Are we looking at the birth of the next WNBA dynasty, or is this just a flash in the pan?